So hopefully by now you have heard of One Fund. We've mentioned it a number of times, and some of you are actually wondering what that is and what that's about. So I want to just touch on that. One Fund is really a pretty simple concept. What it means is that during the 2 years of the One by One initiative, we will roll all of our funds, all of our designated giving into one fund during that 2-year period. So that means for those 24 months, there will be no missions fund, there will be no Barnabas fund to give to separately. The 1% offering will not be given to separately, and the building fund will not be a separate designation. And there's some others as well as the general fund. Everything will be rolled into one fund, and this goes along with the concept of one vision for one church, and we propose to resource it through one fund. Hopefully you heard Stacy say that not too long ago. So the One Fund approach it's a fairly new approach. It's not the traditional capital campaign. In fact, you probably have not heard us use that language much because we want to change the paradigm a little bit. The One Fund approach has been used successfully by over 150 churches across the country, and they've really seen some good results from that. There is one exception to the One Fund approach. I'll just touch on it briefly, but there's more information on the website, and that is personal sponsorships. And there's a full rationale behind that I'm not going to take the time to go into. But if you sponsor an orphan, or you help to sponsor one of our interns, or even there's a few of our staff who raise support to kind of combine with their salary. And if you do any of that, those will continue to be done in the way they always have been. Everything else will be rolled into one fund. So some great benefits of that. We feel like it's really going to unify our movement. We don't have people giving to specific things or even specific parts of our vision. We're all in this together. We're all joined together. And that was very important in some of the feedback we got early on in this process. So we wanted to honor that. It's also a very simple approach. You don't have to remember a lot of designations. You just write your check to Calvary. It goes to one fund. And the thing I like the best is it's designed in a way that everyone can participate. And here's why. If you take your card and open it up, on the inside top part of it, there is what we call a generosity pathway. And I think you can read it and you'll be able to make sense of it. But the part that strikes me about this is that the focus, surely we're raising funds for the One by One initiative, but the focus here is on discipleship. It's on taking a step that will lead us towards spiritual growth. And so we're challenging ourselves to grow in faith, to grow in generosity. But everybody can take a step. We just need to identify kind of where we are on this pathway, look at the next marker, and take that step. Now, what I want to do tonight is just give you a couple of quick illustrations on how you can fill out this card. But before I do that, let me just say the most important thing on this card is actually on the back where it says pray. I'm going to give you some illustrations. I don't want you to fill in the numbers I give you. I want you to go home and pray and ask God what goes in there for you. And I also want to encourage you to pray and ask Him that the Calvary would be able to raise $8.5 million over this 2-year period. Now, by the way, our normal giving at Calvary over 2 years would amount to $4 million when you combine all those funds together. So just to give you a little perspective there. So let me give you a couple of illustrations. The first one, I'm going to make up a guy here who is maybe a new Christian, maybe just new to Calvary, maybe just kind of getting turned on to the whole giving thing. But we're going to call this guy Gary. And Gary has never given before to Calvary. And so as he fills in his card, that first blank, he's going to put a 0 because what he normally gives in a year to Calvary is 0. And then, he's gotten really kind of jazzed about the One by One initiative, really loves the vision. And so he determines that he's going to take that step of being a first-time giver, and he thinks he can give $1,000 in the course of a year to the One by One initiative. So you add those two numbers together, and you get a total of $1,000. Multiply that by 2 years of the initiative, and he's at $2,000. Now, the next line there talks about stored assets. What's that about? Well, really, we're encouraging all of us to think through three areas of our giving. One is what we normally give to all these different funds and designations. A second part is what we think we can expand our giving for that 2-year period. And the third part is that most of us have something we already own that we might be able to part with. Some of us have things we own that we would love to part with. We'd love to get them out of the house, you know. So this guy, Gary, he's kind of a sports memorabilia guy. And so he goes home and he discovers that he has a mint quality Kurt Warner rookie card. And he lives in Happy Valley, so that card's worth something, right? So he puts it on eBay, discovers he can get $500 for that, adds that to his total, and he has $2,500 as his 2-year one-fund commitment. Takes that number, moves it across the page, and he marks the step for first-time giver and fills in his information, tears off the card, turns that in on Commit Sunday. Okay? Pretty straightforward. Let me do one more just to make sure we've got the idea. Here's a couple, second scenario, a couple where both spouses work. Their kids are grown, and they've actually graduated college. I'm almost to that spot, like right there on the edge. So these guys really have had some of their resources freed up. They're also very faithful givers, and in the course of a normal year, to all the different funds, they give $10,000. And as they prayed about it, they feel like they can expand their giving for the 2-year period by adding another $5,000 a year. So they add those together, they get $15,000, multiply it by 2 years, and they come up with $30,000. And then they sit back and they say, boy, we'd really love to give a little more to this. Let's reflect. And they realize that about 10 years ago, they bought stock in Starbucks. And that stock has gone off the charts. They feel like they can let go of that and add another $5,000 to their commitment. So their total for the 2 years is $35,000. Take it across the page. For them, they're checking the bold box because this is a bold step for them. And then they fill in their information, tear it off at the perforation, and turn that in on Commit Sunday. So a couple big advantages to this process. One, it helps all of us to plan our giving well. And you'll actually have a part of this left over that you can keep track of what you actually committed to. Stick that on the refrigerator or whatever. The second advantage is that it helps the church leadership to really plan into the future well also. So that's a big part of it. But again, you know, the thing I love the best is that everybody can have a part of this. And we are encouraging everyone, no matter where you are in your giving history or your giving growth, we want to encourage you to fill out one of these cards and turn it in on Commit Sunday. So 2 other things real quick. You'll notice at the bottom of the card, actually if you can go back to that card for just a second, the bottom on the left-hand side, there's information about electronic giving. And we really want to encourage you to consider giving electronically. About 15% of our church does that right now. We'd love to see that percentage go up. And I want to personally encourage you to do that if you can from your checking account, because that actually has lower fees to the church, so more of your gift will actually go for ministry. So we want to encourage you to consider giving electronically. Do it from your checking account if you can. Last thing is, I just want to kind of show you again in the flow. Mike talked a lot about this, the upcoming dates that are kind of important in this cycle. So the first one is April 27th. That's actually Sunday night of City Serve. Dan and I are going to be here in Fellowship Hall and would love to have anybody come who has any question at all about the initiative. We just feel like it's important enough that if you have questions or you're confused about something, we want to be able to address those. The second thing is that One Fund giving officially will start during the month of May. Now, I know some of you guys are really eager and you're already on the ball and you've already started giving to One Fund. That's fine. But just to let you know, the transition will officially take place in May. May 4th, we talked about, will be Commit Sunday. That's when we'll bring these back. May 17th and 18th, 2 weeks after that, are what we call Big Give Weekend. What does that mean? Well, one, we're going to announce the total of all the pledges. So that's going to be an exciting day no matter what. Secondly, though, we're going to encourage folks to bring their first offerings on that day. So that might be you're able to liquidate that stored asset, whatever it is, and you can bring that, or just your first offerings for that day. But we're praying that that'll be the largest offering, single offering in the history of Calvary. And the reason is that that really will help us to get off to a good start. It'll get some good cash flow going. It'll help us to launch on a number of our initiatives right off the bat. And it'll save us money on interest down the road. So that's real important. And then if the goal is reached, we fully believe it is. We're praying for that. Groundbreaking happens in June. So we are right on the edge of that. It's an exciting time to be a part of Calvary. And so hopefully that helps to explain some of this, take away some of the confusion. But as always, we would love to answer questions that you have if you still have those. That's it.